4-year-old Madison Clark was throwing snowballs near the edge of frozen Willowbrook Lake when the ice beneath her feet gave way with a sharp crack, plunging her into water so cold it stopped her heart for several terrifying seconds. Her screams echoed across the lake as she struggled to keep her head above the surface, but the ice shelf prevented her from climbing out and hypothermia was setting in within minutes. From 100 yards away, Atlas, a retired search and rescue German Shepherd living with the Peterson family, heard Madison's cries and witnessed her fall through eyes trained to recognize life-threatening emergencies. Without hesitation, the 8-year-old dog bolted toward the lake and dove into the freezing water, using specialized water rescue techniques he had learned during his 5 years of professional service. For 15 crucial minutes, Atlas supported Madison in the deadly cold water while using his powerful voice to alert rescuers, ultimately saving her life through training, courage, and the kind of split-second decision-making that separated professional heroes from ordinary pets. Welcome to Saved by Tales. Before we dive into this heart-stopping story of professional training meeting life-or-death crisis and a retired hero refusing to let his skills go unused when a child's life hung in the balance, tell me in the comments, have you ever witnessed a working dog's training kick in during an emergency situation? And if you believe these incredible stories of professional animals using their expertise to save lives deserve to be shared, hit that subscribe button and join our community celebrating the four-legged heroes whose training and courage create miracles when disaster strikes without warning. Atlas had been living with the Peterson family for 2 years, enjoying a well-deserved retirement after 5 years as a search and rescue German Shepherd with the Michigan State Police. The imposing dog had worked dozens of missing person cases, specialized in water rescues, and had been credited with saving 11 lives during his professional career before a minor hip injury prompted his early retirement. Atlas earned his rest, Don Peterson often told neighbors who admired the magnificent German Shepherd. He spent 5 years running toward danger when everyone else was running away. Now he gets to be a family dog and enjoy sleeping on the couch. But retirement hadn't diminished Atlas's alertness or his protective instincts toward the children in his neighborhood. The dog knew every family within a 3-block radius and paid special attention to the youngest residents, seeming to understand their vulnerability and need for extra supervision. Madison Clark lived next door with her parents, Jennifer and Mark, and had become one of Atlas's favorite neighborhood charges. The 4-year-old often played in her backyard, which was adjacent to the Peterson property, and Atlas would position himself where he could observe her activities through the fence. Atlas watches Madison like she's his own puppy, Jennifer Clark often commented. That dog seems to know exactly where she is and what she's doing every moment she's outside. On January 15th, Atlas's protective vigilance would be tested in ways that required every skill he had learned during his professional career. Willowbrook Lake stretched behind the residential neighborhood, offering beautiful views and recreational opportunities that made it one of the area's most desirable locations. In winter, the lake typically froze solid enough for ice fishing and skating, but this year's unusually warm temperatures had created unstable ice conditions that posed serious dangers. Madison had been playing in her backyard, building snowmen and throwing snowballs with the boundless energy of a 4-year-old who loved winter weather. Her parents were inside preparing lunch and could see her through the kitchen window, but the large yard gave Madison plenty of space to explore safely. Or so they thought. Madison's curiosity was captured by the way sunlight sparkled on the snow-covered ice near the lake's edge. From her perspective, the frozen surface looked like a magical playground covered in glittering crystals that seemed to invite exploration. Pretty ice, Madison said to herself as she approached the lake, unaware that the recent warm spell had weakened the ice to dangerous levels. The ice appeared solid and safe, covered with several inches of snow that disguised the dangerous conditions beneath. Madison stepped onto what looked like stable ground, excited to get closer to the sparkling surface that had caught her attention. The ice held Madison's weight for approximately 10 steps before giving way with a sharp crack that echoed across the lake like a gunshot. One moment she was walking on what appeared to be solid ground, and the next she was plunging into water so cold it felt like liquid fire against her skin. "Help! Help me!" Madison screamed as the shock of the freezing water overwhelmed her small body. The ice hole was approximately 4 feet in diameter, just large enough for Madison to fall through but too small for her to climb out easily. The edges of the ice shelf were slippery and unstable, breaking away each time she tried to pull herself up. Water temperature was approximately 34 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to cause immediate shock response and begin the hypothermia process within minutes. Madison's winter clothing, while warm on land, became waterlogged and heavy, making it difficult for her to stay afloat. From his position in the Peterson backyard, Atlas heard Madison's screams immediately. The German Shepherd's trained ears recognized the specific pitch and urgency of a distress call, and his professional experience told him that someone was in immediate life-threatening danger. Atlas's response to Madison's emergency was immediate and systematic, demonstrating the training and decision-making that had made him an elite search and rescue dog. The German Shepherd assessed the situation quickly, identified the type of rescue required, and began implementing water rescue protocols he had used dozens of times during his career. Without pausing to consider his own safety or the fact that he was officially retired, Atlas bolted toward the lake at full speed. His powerful legs carried him across the frozen ground in seconds, his mind already calculating approach angles and rescue techniques. Atlas's water rescue training had prepared him for exactly this type of emergency. He knew how to approach ice rescue situations, how to support victims in freezing water, and how to signal for human backup while maintaining victim safety. "Help is coming," Atlas seemed to communicate through his confident approach and purposeful movements as he reached the lake's edge. Atlas didn't hesitate at the water's edge. Using techniques learned during professional training, the German Shepherd entered the water with a controlled dive that minimized splash and positioned him optimally for victim support. The freezing water was a shock even for Atlas, whose thick coat and conditioning provided some protection against hypothermia. But his training had prepared him for cold water rescues, and his focus remained entirely on reaching Madison before the cold water claimed her.
Dog helping!"
Madison called out when she saw Atlas swimming toward her with powerful, purposeful strokes. Atlas reached Madison within 30 seconds of entering the water, immediately positioning himself to provide flotation support while keeping both their heads above the surface. His size and strength allowed him to support Madison's weight while maintaining position in the water. The German Shepherd's training included techniques for supporting conscious victims in water emergencies, and he implemented these skills flawlessly despite the challenging conditions. Once Atlas reached Madison, he used his body as a living flotation device, allowing her to rest against his back and shoulders while he maintained their position in the water. His thick coat provided some insulation against the deadly cold, and his calm demeanor helped keep Madison from panicking. Good dog," Madison whispered through chattering teeth, understanding that Atlas was saving her life. Atlas's professional training included victim calming techniques, and he used gentle vocalizations and steady positioning to reassure Madison that help was on the way. His presence transformed her terror into hope, even as hypothermia began affecting both of them. Most importantly, Atlas began a systematic barking pattern designed to alert humans to their emergency situation. His training had taught him specific alert calls that would carry across distances and communicate the urgency of their situation to potential rescuers. The German Shepherd's barks were loud, rhythmic, and persistent, the kind of professional emergency signaling that trained responders would recognize immediately as a call for help. Atlas's emergency barking served multiple purposes during their water rescue situation. The loud, distinctive calls attracted attention from neighborhood residents, while the specific pattern communicated the urgency and nature of their emergency to anyone with experience in rescue operations. Jennifer Clark heard the barking first, recognizing something unusual in the intensity and persistence of Atlas's calls. When she looked out her window and couldn't see Madison in the backyard, her concern turned to panic. "Mark," Jennifer called to her husband, "I can't see Madison, and Atlas is barking like something's wrong." Don Peterson also recognized that Atlas's barking was different from normal dog vocalizations. "That's not regular barking," he told his wife Susan. "Atlas is using his emergency alert. Something's seriously wrong." Both families rushed outside, following the sound of Atlas's calls toward the lake. What they found sent them into immediate emergency mode. Madison and Atlas both in the freezing water, with the German Shepherd supporting the little girl while signaling desperately for help. The discovery of Madison and Atlas in the lake triggered immediate emergency response from both families. Mark Clark called 911, while Don Peterson assessed rescue options, drawing on his experience as a volunteer firefighter. "We've got a child and dog in freezing water at Willowbrook Lake," Mark reported to emergency dispatchers. "The dog appears to be keeping the child afloat, but they're both in immediate danger of hypothermia." Don Peterson began implementing ice rescue safety protocols, knowing that additional victims would only make the situation worse. "We need rope and flotation devices," he called to neighbors who had heard the commotion and come to help. Atlas continued his professional support of Madison while maintaining his alert barking, though the cold water was beginning to affect his strength and endurance. His training and conditioning were being tested to their limits by the extended water exposure. "Hang on, Madison," Jennifer called from the shore. "Help is coming. Atlas is taking care of you." Emergency responders arrived within 8 minutes of the initial call, but Atlas had been supporting Madison in the freezing water for nearly 15 minutes by that time. Both were showing signs of severe hypothermia, but Atlas's training and determination had kept them both alive until professional help could arrive. "We've got a water rescue situation with a child and what appears to be a trained rescue dog," reported Fire Captain Robert Chen, as his team deployed ice rescue equipment. The rescue team used specialized cold water recovery techniques to extract both Madison and Atlas from the lake safely. Atlas continued supporting Madison until the moment human rescuers took over, only then allowing his own exhaustion and hypothermia to show. "That dog conducted a textbook water rescue," observed EMT Lisa Martinez as both victims were prepared for emergency transport. "His positioning and support techniques were exactly what we would do in this situation." Both Madison and Atlas were rushed to emergency medical facilities, Madison to Children's Hospital and Atlas to the Animal Emergency Clinic. Both were suffering from severe hypothermia and exhaustion, but their conditions were stable thanks to Atlas's professional rescue intervention. Madison's survival is directly attributable to the dog's actions, explained Dr. Sarah Kim, who treated Madison's hypothermia. In water this cold, she would have succumbed to hypothermia within minutes without support. The dog's body heat and flotation assistance saved her life. Atlas required intensive warming treatment and monitoring for secondary hypothermia effects, but his conditioning and training had prepared him better than most dogs for cold water exposure. Atlas is a remarkable animal, said veterinarian Dr. Amanda Foster. His professional training and conditioning allowed him to function in conditions that would have killed an untrained dog within minutes. Madison's recovery was swift and complete, with no lasting effects from her cold water exposure. Her parents credited Atlas with saving their daughter's life and transforming what could have been a family tragedy into a story of heroism and survival. Atlas didn't just save Madison, Jennifer Clark said during Madison's hospital recovery. He saved our entire family from losing our little girl. That dog is a hero in every sense of the word. Atlas's recovery took longer due to his age and the extended time he had spent in freezing water, but his professional conditioning and training had given him the physical and mental resources needed to survive the rescue mission. The bond between Madison and Atlas, already strong before the rescue, deepened into something extraordinary. The 4-year-old understood that Atlas had saved her life, and her gratitude was expressed through constant attention and affection during his recovery. Atlas's ice rescue became a case study for search and rescue training programs, demonstrating how professional skills and training remained viable even after official retirement. His techniques and decision-making were analyzed by experts who found his performance to be flawless under extreme conditions. Atlas executed a perfect cold water rescue using techniques that many human rescuers would struggle to implement under similar conditions, explained Dr. Robert Kim, who studied the incident. His training, conditioning, and professional experience came together to save a life. The rescue also highlighted the value of retired working dogs in residential communities, where their skills and alertness could provide safety resources that residents might not otherwise have access to. News of Atlas's heroic rescue spread throughout the community and beyond, inspiring residents and demonstrating the ongoing value of retired working dogs. The story was featured in law enforcement publications and search and rescue training materials. Atlas proves that heroes don't really retire, said Michigan State Police Captain Jennifer Walsh during a ceremony honoring the German Shepherd. His training and courage were always there, waiting for the moment when someone needed them most. The incident also led to improved ice safety education and warning systems for Willowbrook Lake, helping prevent future accidents while honoring Atlas's life-saving intervention. 5 years after the ice rescue, Atlas and Madison remained inseparable friends across the fence line that separated their properties. Madison, now 9 years old, often told people about how Atlas had saved her life when she was little. Atlas jumped in the freezing water and kept me safe until the firefighters came. Madison would explain with the pride of someone who had been rescued by a real hero. He's the bravest dog in the world. Atlas had returned to comfortable retirement, but his alertness and protective instincts toward neighborhood children remained strong. His story continued to inspire communities and demonstrate the lasting value of professional training and the courage of dogs who never truly retire from protecting those they love. I still think about that January afternoon when a 4-year-old girl fell through ice into water cold enough to kill within minutes, and a retired German Shepherd proved that true heroes never really stop working. If Atlas had enjoyed his retirement on the couch, if he'd lost the edge that made him a professional rescuer, if he'd hesitated for even 30 seconds before diving into that freezing lake, Madison Clark would have died alone in water that showed no mercy. Atlas's story teaches us something profound about the nature of training, dedication, and the bonds that form between working dogs and the communities they serve. This wasn't just a pet saving a child, this was a professional using every skill he'd learned during 5 years of life-saving work, proving that expertise and courage don't disappear just because the official career has ended. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed a working dog's training kick in during an emergency situation? Have you seen retired service animals demonstrate that their skills and protective instincts remain sharp long after their official duties end? These professional partnerships between humans and working dogs might be more important to our communities than we typically recognize. Share your experiences in the comments below, because at Saved by Tails, we believe that our working dogs possess capabilities and dedication that can save lives when training meets crisis and heroes choose to act instead of staying safe. If Atlas's incredible story moved you, if it reminded you of the professional excellence that exists in dogs whose training represents years of life-saving expertise, please share this video with others who need to see what heroism looks like when it's powered by professional skills and delivered with 4 paws and a heart that never forgets its mission. Hit that like button, subscribe to Saved by Tails, and help us continue telling the stories of working animals whose training and courage create miracles when disaster strikes and seconds determine whether families stay whole or are broken forever. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes our greatest protection comes from heroes who never truly retire, whose skills remain sharp, and whose courage activates the moment someone needs saving.